and the beginning of a new chapter in our history. To throw some light over the program, we have a small video here.
India, the second most populated country with over 1,300 million inhabitants, accounts for 17.7% of the total world population. Its population is predominantly young and is struggling to adapt to an increasingly globalized world. In terms of education, higher education institutions lack the tools and resources necessary for creating institution-wide thriving cultures of internationalization for all. This results in India curricula not being internationalized and failing to prepare graduates to be global professionals and citizens. Rishii addresses these problems with two priorities in mind: modernization and innovation. India needs curriculum internationalization. This is essential to give a shared language and the basis necessary for mutual understanding across societal diversity. Rishii has identified the needs of multiple components of the academic ecosystem. Students are in need of internationalized curricula, recognition, and academics who know how to implement such curricula. Faculty needs training and tools to implement the basis of curriculum internationalization, and means to collaborate with the involved non-academic staff. Involved non-academic staff require mechanisms to involve different actors in institution-wide strategic planning, as well as basic training in CI. Higher education institutions, authorities need a mass of academic and non-academic staff trained and engaged in curriculum internationalization with two levels of training. Level 2, who can provide continuous professional development for other faculty and non-academic staff. Level 1, who can implement CI but are not yet ready to help others to do so. In order to face this challenge, we rely on active and transformative methodology based on the following procedures. 1. Learning through doing and through teaching, where participants develop and run workshops. 2. Peer learning. Participants work in small groups giving and receiving peer feedback on their work. And 3. Reflective practice. Tools and resources designed to help participants to reflect on their own behavior. The following deliverables constitute tangible results of Rishii project. 1. 14 Indian HEIs will develop their strategic CI plan and will be able to adopt the tools for curriculum internationalization. 2. 2 levels of curriculum internationalization champions will be trained. 3. And CI supporting tools, online resources, and workshop designs will be developed and implemented. This project is possible through the participation and cooperation of Indian and European partners and the funding received from the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. Rishii, preparing Indian graduates to become global professionals and citizens.
With us, our chief guest, Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto SJ, Rector, St. Aloysius Institutions, Reverend Dr. Praveen Martis SJ, Principal, St. Aloysius College, Dr. Alvin Dessa, Registrar and Controller of Examinations, and Dr. Ronald Nazareth, Coordinator Rishii Project. I would now request Dr. Ronald Nazareth to escort the dignitaries onto the dais. I would like to call upon Dr. Alvin Dessa, Registrar and Controller of Examination, who has been a great support and inspiration to all of us, to welcome the gathering.
A very good morning to each and every one of you. We are all gathered here for a significant occasion to spend a day discussing and sharing our ideas and experiences with this novel idea of a Rishii project, which is funded by the European Union. This is called the Dissemination event or Dissemination workshop. We have been selected, we have been privileged to be a part of this. A total of 14 institutions, universities, and our college have been part of this project. A lot of activities have taken place under this project, and it is not only necessary that we learn from this project, but also we disseminate whatever we learn, the outcomes of our engagement with Rishii, share with the neighboring institutions as well as our faculty. We have conducted a lot of dissemination events, capacity building events to the other institutions, staff and students of the other colleges under Mangalore University and the state. We have also been part of the visits to the European universities, especially Diosto University, which is the nodal university for this project, for evaluation of our activities during these years of this particular engagement. And to have someone to be the chief guest and then give a brief introductory remarks and a keynote address. When we were brainstorming, the first name that came to our minds was Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin, currently the Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University. He is from the background of political science with a specialization and in-depth study of international relations. Some of us have been his students. I can see Dr. Rosvira D'Souza, who has been, and others who have been part of his tenure as the head of the department, professor, as well as Dean of Arts, and now as a Vice Chancellor of the university. He has grown from strength to strength. I would like to tell you that he has been part of several national and international research projects, including the well-known Erasmus when it was initiated in the beginning, which has grown into Erasmus Plus now. He has been a part of that particular project too, funded by the European Union. He has conducted quite a lot of workshops, international seminar under this project. He is an ideal blend of erudition, research and innovation and scholarship, and with his sheer hard work and mentoring a lot of students for their studies as well as research, PhD programs, he has reached this level. So on behalf of all of you gathered here, I would like to accord a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin, the Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University. A warm welcome to you, sir. May I request Father Rector, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto, to accord a warm green welcome to our chief guest. Shall we have a big round of applause, please? We have with us the president of today's event, the Rector of Elevation Institutions, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto, SJ. For the last few years, he has been spearheading and leading these institutions to greater heights. He is an ideal blend of the qualities of the head and the heart. So he has endeared himself to all the staff and students of several institutions on this hill, as well as other places in Mangalore, by his sheer way of empathizing with people, being empathetic leader. So a warm welcome to Father Rector, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto. A warm welcome to you. I request the principal of the college, Reverend Dr. Praveen Martis, SJ, to welcome Father Rector with a green welcome. We have a leader with us who have been leading us with his creativity and dynamism for the last 7 years. I'm happy to tell you that he is a person with ideas. He needs new ideas every single day, and he thinks that when every student comes every day to the campus, there should be something new and exciting for them. At the same time, the diversity, the principle of diversity, equity, and inclusion has been applied to the college in its strictest sense, and that he has this whole idea of mapping every single students in different parameters so that they can be handheld, they can be helped, they can be promoted in their own areas of ingenuity, creativity, and scholarship. We have been moving in the right direction, and he has been also working very seriously to get the status of a deemed to be university for the several years to the college, which we richly deserve. On behalf of all of you gathered here, I would like to accord a warm welcome to Reverend Dr. Praveen Martis, SJ, the principal of the college. There is a person behind this entire Rishii project. He is none other than the Dean of Domestic as well as International Relations of St. Aloysius College, Dr. Ronald Nazareth, the director of the SLRI BOC. He has been working very seriously on these projects. He has been the liaison between the partnering institutions. He has been instrumental in creating awareness about Rishii project and especially curriculum internationalization, CI, among the colleges in the vicinity. He has been seriously engaged in reporting and creating documents related to this Rishii project, and he has been spearheading this particular movement. I would like to appreciate and congratulate his works for this Rishii project, and to this particular dissemination event, I accord him a warm and cordial welcome. We have with us the directors of various blocks. We have especially Dr. Dennis Fernandez, who has just returned from a teaching assignment in SUNY Cortland, New York, and also Dr. Rosevira D'Souza. She also was there for 2 months. And in the month of January, I think we are receiving 2 faculty from SUNY Cortland as well as 2 students who will be earning 15 credits during the 4 months of the next semester. So in this way, we have been promoting this student as well as staff exchange programs along with the teaching assignments, etc., very engagingly. So I accord a warm welcome to all the directors who are here and deans, the heads of the departments and members of the core committee of this particular event, all the HODs and research scholars, and especially delegates from other institutions who have come all the way from their place to learn more about Rishii and curriculum internationalization. To all of you, a warm and cordial welcome. This morning I got a message, and the message went like this. Knowledge is absolutely free, but you have to pay attention. So therefore, today I am here to wish you an engaging day's work and learning experience to all of you. Thank you for this opportunity and all the best.
Appearances make impressions, but it's the personality that makes an impact. We are honored to have such an eminent personality here with us. I would like to request Dr. Rachel Natasha Mary, HOD, Department of UG Chemistry, to introduce the chief guest to the gathering.
Good morning to all. We have amidst us Professor Jairaj Amin, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University. Dr. Jairaj Amin is the Dean of Arts Faculty and Professor in the Department of Political Science at Mangalore University. He obtained his master's degree in Political Science from Mangalore University and MPhil and PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. For the last 29 years, Professor Jairaj Amin has been teaching in the postgraduate Department of Political Science and guiding research students for their PhD. His specialization and area of interest is international relations with a special focus on regional organizations. He has to his credit 3 edited books and many chapters in books and research articles published in international and national journals. He has presented papers in several national and international seminars and conferences in India and abroad. Professor Jairaj Amin was a recipient of the Austrian Salzburg Seminar Fellowship, the Sri Lankan RCSS Fellowship, the IESCP-sponsored Advanced European Union Research Fellowship in Germany, and European Commission-sponsored Erasmus Mundus Fellowship in the Netherlands. He has served as a visiting faculty at the University of Leipzig and the University of Würzburg in Germany, and was a visiting fellow at the University of Leiden, Netherlands. Professor Jairaj Amin has to his credit the initiation and successful completion of 3 major and prestigious projects sponsored by the European Commission at Mangalore University, namely the India-European Union Studies Centers Program, an offshoot of the India-European Union Bilateral Treaty, the Erasmus Mundus Academic Exchange Program with several European universities, John Monnet Module Project that has put Mangalore University in the global map of specialized centers teaching European Union. Professor Jairaj Amin has served as a member secretary of NAC peer teams for accreditation and assessment. He is the Vice President of the Association of European Studies in India, Associate Member of the Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, New Delhi, Life Member of Indian Political Science Association, American Studies Research Center, Hyderabad, Member of International Studies Association, University of Arizona, and several other professional bodies. He has taken charge as the Acting Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University on June 2nd, 2023. Dear sir, we are very delighted to have you amidst us.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, sir. Yeah. Respected dignitaries on the dais, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto, Principal of the College, Reverend Dr. Praveen Martis, Coordinator of Rishii, Dr. Ronald Nazareth, Registrar of the University, Dr. Alvin Dessa, my dear colleagues, faculty, perhaps non-faculty members of the non-faculty staff of the university, of the college, all other invitees, and I don't know whether students are here. Okay, so now this gives me great pleasure to be here in this great institution to participate in this Erasmus Mundus related program called as Rishii. Now this title is very nice. It's a very nice sounding word, Rishii, but it's actually meaningfully done here. Resources for the internationalization of higher education institutions in India. I think the Erasmus Mundus project expects every participating country to name its project in certain ways, and I think Saint Aloysius has done it in a very apt manner. This is basically, so internationalization of in education is basically a dissemination project, dissemination of knowledge. Now, as we all know, education sector has actually undergone drastic changes in last 20, 30 years. Earlier, education was actually confined to the national setting, but it no more the case today. Now, there is a great deal of openness and interconnectedness across the globe in the knowledge generation and dissemination. Now, this internationalization of knowledge, of course, need not actually get confined to only the exchange of faculties and students. It could also come about through the curriculum framework, which is global in nature. It could also come in the form of collaborations and partnerships. It could also be in the form of exchange of ideas through the digital platforms, virtual classrooms, exchange of students. Even the cultural exchange also has, in a way, contributes to this internationalization of education here. Now, this concept, especially, what we call as the study abroad program, of course, is not a new thing to our country. Now, if you look at the freedom movement of our country, large number of our freedom movement leaders had actually studied in foreign countries. Now, whether it's a Gandhi or Nehru or Lohia, Ambedkar, you name anybody, most of them, the tall leaders, were actually, had studied in the Western universities and had inculcated certain liberal values. We also take pride in saying that, even in the good old days, we had great institutions, like, we often mention the names of, Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramashila, and all those things. And we say that, large number of students from other parts of the world also used to come to India to study some of the, texts like, astronomy or, or Vedic knowledge, mathematics, and things of this kind. But for some reasons, this trend actually, began to reverse. Of course, we will not get into those things, but we all know that when it comes to 20th century and 21st century, the internationalization of education has actually become the main thing in the educational sector. Especially with the globalization, interconnectedness, and technological advancements, the landscape of education has truly become international. Now, countries see many advantages in internationalization for higher education. Influx of students actually adds diversity to the campus. There is a diversity of cultures, there's a diversity of worldviews, there is a diversity of languages, which actually create a very vibrant learning atmosphere in any colleges or in any universities. When large number of students from other countries are actually present in your campus. So today, institutions actually support collaborations, exchange programs, joint academic, programs, not only for, intellectual, purposes, but also for, these invisible factors like the diversity and the cultural kind of, factors here. So curriculums are also today designed keeping in mind the global developments, the advancements in different areas, and the students are preparing the students to be to become truly global. So there, I think Professor Alun Desai also mentioned, we are actually preparing the students for global competition today, because we know that that competition is not confined to the local areas today, and the students have to face this competition from every side. So if they want to succeed, they have to acquire this kind of global knowledge. Otherwise, they are just lost in the in this competitive world. But somehow, the Indian universities were very slow to adjust to this trend. They were happy operating within their own setup. But on the other hand, if you look at the students, large number of students actually were going abroad for studies. And with the globalization of the 1990s, this trend has actually picked up. So it is said that, from 1999 to 2006, just in about 7-8 years, the number of students going abroad has increased by about 193%. Of course, this trend slightly started declining subsequently for a number of reasons. But as the Minister of External Affairs suggests that in 2022, nearly 14 lakh students are actually studying, Indian students are studying in about 79 countries of the world. But if you look at the other side, that is, if you look at the students coming from other part of the world to India, it is less than 5,000, as the Aisha statistics suggest. But somewhere, the government also began to realize that, with this kind of things, the large amount is actually going outside the country. The hardened, hard currency is actually going outside the country here. And then along with that, there is also the related brain drain, problems also. And I think the principal just mentioned these things in the morning. And therefore, the government thought, somewhere there is a need to invest in international higher education. Of course, this is also, aided by several other factors also. We have nearly about 900 universities in India and more than 40,000 colleges in India. But if you look at this, the large number, none of these 990 universities and about 40,000 colleges are in the world university ranking. So in terms of the volume, of course, the education sector is huge in India, but in terms of the quality, we were still actually the underdogs. And then because of this shortage of high quality educational institutions, a good number of students who could really afford education abroad, they started actually choosing the foreign universities for their studies. And with this, Indians are actually said to be spending about $15 billion every year. And if $15 billion were actually going out of the country in the name of studying abroad, that is a huge amount. Economically also, it makes no sense for any country to actually afford this loss. And then, of course, it was also felt that, already the gross enrollment ratio is about 24%. And it was expected that, by 2035, the gross enrollment ratio would go up to 50%. That means, the huge number is actually going to be the part of the educational system in India. And how do you deal with these things? So can you actually deal on your own, without having any kind of external connections? So can you live in cocoons? Now, so this also actually started opening up the minds of the government, and which began to very seriously think about the internationalization of these things here. Then it was also felt that in a way, not only you should stop Indian students from going abroad, but also you should actually encourage the foreign universities to come to India. Why? Because they actually come with the latest technology, latest knowledge, and their very presence in India would actually encourage the students certain amount of mobility. Because otherwise, we all know that students usually prefer educational institutions closer to their house. They don't really bother about the quality of the institutions. But the very presence of this competitiveness among these institutions would actually enable the students to look for the better institutions. And the foreign university could be a great competitor to the Indian universities. And therefore, somewhere you can actually see the quality of the students also going up, and there will also be a good competition between the universities in India. So guided by many other factors, therefore, the government of India introduced the National Education Policy, NEP, as you all know, in July 2020. Of course, the theme that was given to me for today's presentation was NEP, and somehow I came to know about these things only this morning. So I really, I'm not an expert on this area, but let me just highlight some of the things. Now, as you all know, NEP actually sought to restructure the entire education system in India. To restructure this educational system in India, it also comes out with several strategies and principles also. And one of them is actually internationalization of education. I would not go into the other aspects of an NEP, but just to highlight one of the two things about the international of higher education in NEP. Now, NEP actually, if you look at the NEP text, which is about, I think, 65, 70 pages. Finally, it has come down to 70 pages. Because earlier it was a huge document, but somehow it has brought down to that. But in that, you actually find a very small section on internationalization of higher education. So other things are actually dealt in great detail, but when it comes to internationalization, there is a very small section, I think just running about 2 paragraphs only. But there, of course, the focus is very clear. In spite of being concise, the focus is very clear. Now, what does it actually focuses? Now, it actually says the purpose of the internationalization of education in India. It says that to create highest global standards while attaining domestic priorities of access, equity, equality, and affordability. Because we all know that at the outset, the NEP focuses on these principles of equity, accessibility, accountability, and all those things. So it says that to add that, internationalization and increasing the standard of education is one of the priority area here. But what is also interesting is that it actually says how do you actually make India a education destination? Rather than sending the students outside, it actually focuses on actually building Indian universities as the top universities in order to attract foreign students to India. And how do you go about? It says that the education has to be a cheaper education in India. So guided by these principles, many students from abroad would actually come to India because they can have the quality education at a cheaper prices. Ultimately, what is the purpose? The NEP is very clear: to make India Vishwaguru. I don't know what it means, but it says that Vishwaguru is actually the objective here. And along with that, it also says that many courses and programs on Indology, Indian languages, Ayush system of medicine, yoga, arts, music, all these things have to be supported in order to attain global quality and also to attract greatest number of foreign students. And the purpose is again defined here: internationalization at home. So that means you actually create a world level kind of institutions here in India with the global presence, but the focus is basically to highlight the Indianness in certain stages here. Of course, there are other things also it actually speaks about, something like, creation of, setting up of, international, office, teaching and research collaborations, faculty-student exchanges, mutually beneficial MOEs, and so many other things there. But the other interesting aspect of this internationalization aspect of, NAP is that, it actually says that high-performing Indian universities can set up their campuses abroad. And on the other side, it says that about 100 top universities of the world could be allowed to set up their campus in India. Now, this is something that's interesting. I'll come to that little later here. So, in other words, the entire focus of NEP is to actually develop India as a hub of education to foster international competences of our faculty and students, and to develop a global mindset and to shape them as global citizens with a deep-rooted pride in being Indian. So that means you actually create a global citizen who is pride of Indian roots and also aware of Indian knowledge and takes pride in being Indian here. Of course, to give effect to this NEP, the government has also come out with several regulations and guidelines and ordinances and so many things. Of course, the most important among them actually is the amendments in 2021 to set up offshore campuses. Then there is also in 2022 another regulation for supernumerary seats for international students studying in India. And then there is again, the recent one, I think, it's still in the draft stage. That's a regulation that has come up in 2022 for training and joint degree and dual degree programs, etc. So most of the universities in India have responded to these, changes in education sector in quite positive manner. And, about 180 universities have already set up international affairs offices in their campuses. And about 158 universities have also set up alumni contact cells, because this is one aspect, again, the NEP focuses on. And some of the higher educational institutions in India are also actually thinking of setting up their branches outside the country. For instance, in IIT Chennai is actually setting up campuses in Zanzibar, Tanzania, and other places. Similarly, IIT Delhi is going to set up a campus in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Other institutions and universities have also taken certain initiative in internationalization of this education. St. Aloysius, for instance, is also going ahead with the internationalization for higher education. Now, most of this internationalization of education initiatives are in the form of collaborations and mutual exchange of faculty and students here. Most of them have also actually worked out this collaboration through certain assistance provided by the international agencies like the European Union. So European Union today is in the forefront of providing some sort of framework for the exchange of ideas between the European universities and the rest of the world. We all know that Erasmus was something that started, I think, in the 2004 or so, but then it has a history of about 35 years. Initially, when Erasmus project started, it was actually confined to the European countries only. So the students of one university could actually study one semester in another European university, that is in another country, could come back with the grades that are marked there, and could continue to here. So there is a exposure. So basically, to bring the European countries together, now this experimentation actually began to take place, and this experimentation is really a success, because people actually, the new generation actually started coming out with the European mindset rather than a nationalistic mindset. They were truly Europeans in certain things. So in promoting this kind of things, of course, this kind of an exchange programs actually played a major role. But gradually, European Union also started extending these things to outside Europe. And initially, it was to Africa, and then gradually to Asia and other countries here. And in fact, I'm very happy to say that even Mangalore University was one of the earliest beneficiaries of this kind of a project. Because in 2004, I was just actually talking to the principals also about these things. In 2004, of course, we had many treaties with the European Union, and in 2004, India signs a strategic partnership agreement with the European Union, and there were subsequently there were huge number of bilateral treaties, and in one of the treaties, many areas for cooperations were identified, and one of the area that was identified for cooperation was education. And to give push to this education cooperation, a separate body called the India-European Union Study Center program was actually created, involving the representatives from the Indian universities and also from the European universities. About 8 Indian universities were actually selected in the first round, and about 15 European universities were actually selected. So what they were supposed to do is actually they have to teach a specialized in a paper on European Union in Indian universities, and the European universities have to teach some course on Indian, philosophy or whatever it is in a language and other things in the European university. Now this was Now this was a great experiment, and this particular body, which had actually the representative from the External Affairs Ministry and also from the European Commission, started looking for those universities which were actually capable of taking up these responsibilities. And I'm happy to say that Mangalore University was actually identified as one of the universities for such a venture in the very beginning. So we had, I think, this program for about 4 years, starting from 2007. For 4 years, this program went on, in which actually the Mangalore University was given technical assistance. In the technical assistance basically meant a large inflow of foreign, the European experts to India, to Mangalore University, and to teach and to train about European Union, and also to address the students and teachers on internationalization of education. So I think about more than 28 faculties from European universities actually visited India. We also conducted one international seminar on European Union. Perhaps that was the first seminar on European Union outside Delhi, happening in India. I think your faculty member also participated in that particular conference. But subsequently, Mangalore University also became part of the Erasmus program. It was called as Erasmus, not Erasmus Plus at that time, in which again, about 8 Indian universities and about 12 universities or so of Europe actually participated in this consortium, and we got this support from the European Commission. So a good number of teachers and students from Mangalore University also went there. My own about 4 or 5 students, PhD students, actually went to different European universities, Warsaw University, Milan, Leiden, and other places, and stayed there for about 10 months. Our teachers also went there for about 3 months. This was a great learning experience for all of us. And then, of course, in 2017, we also had applied for another project called as the Jean Monnet module under the Erasmus Plus program. Because that time, Erasmus has actually become Erasmus Plus, because the areas identified under the Erasmus Plus actually began to increase. There was a capacity building programs, there was a joint masters programs, and then there was also this, Jean Monnet module program. Jean Monnet program is actually a program given to universities specialized in the teaching of European Union. And fortunately, we were also able to get this kind of things. It was a very tough competition, but at the global level, there was a competition, and we also actually, were able to secure this competition. So that means the Mangalore University, right from the beginning, was actually involved in this, Erasmus kind of, programs. And I'm happy that, even Aloysius is also now has become part of these things. So it is not only, I'm telling you these things because, from the political science department, we had applied for all these projects, we could secure this. But there are also other departments who again became part of the Erasmus program projects in Mangalore University, like the Department of Electronics, Department of Computer Science, and other things. So that means, our university, and then of course the institutions like, St. Aloysius were very actively involved in this kind of project right from the beginning. And we are happy that all these programs were actually conducted quite successfully. And I'm also informed that, this St. Aloysius is also in the fag end of this particular program, Rishii program here. So it is also doing extremely well here. So that means, the good number of Indian universities are actually becoming part of the global academic network, and they are also benefiting by this project. The internationalization of education has already started yielding good results, and the footprint of the Indian higher educational institution at the global stage has already been raised, which is evident from the fact that about 45 higher educational institutions from India were ranked in the recent QS 2024, with 11 placed in the top 500. And about 44 courses in their respective subject categories have been ranked among the global top 10 in the QS ranking of 2023. So that means, even gradually, we are not still in the top 200 universities of the world, but somewhere, this steadily, our ranking is actually going up, and large number of institutions are also are actually being added to this list here. Even the government is also, to a certain extent, is supportive of this, internationalization for higher education here. And then, of course, government is also coming up, because government is actually thinking of, I think, more than sending the students abroad, it is actually, more interested in bringing the foreign universities to India. In fact, in 2023, this year itself, there has been an amendment to the, Educational Institutions Act, in which actually the institutions coming from outside to India were given a free hand to frame their own policies about the admission, to have their own payment to the teachers, and also very interestingly allowed these institutions the repatriation of the fees also to their countries. Now this is, you all know about the Indian mindset, how difficult it must have been for Indian government to allow this kind of process to take place. But then if you don't have other alternatives, because you can't actually, incentivize, foreign universities coming to India in the absence of these things. So foreign universities would definitely, insist on these things, and the Indian government has also actually permitted with this kind of things there. So that means, the large number of institutions are actually becoming part of this internationalization process here. But along with the NEP, there is also there are concerns about the internationalization of higher education. One is, of course, I would not go into the details here, but then definitely, the one of the question that is often raised in the internationalization of education is the questions relating to the inclusiveness, access, and inequity. Because how many students can actually afford the foreign education, either in India or abroad? And one hand, the government is speaking about the equity, and on the other hand, it is actually giving a free hand to the foreign universities to have their own fees. So how many Indian students can really afford to actually study in these institutions here? That is one of the question mark that is always raised here. And of course, the government actually is avoiding the direct answer to these kind of questions here. And secondly, if you look at the global trend, these days, large number of Western universities, Western I mean, including American universities, have seen a drop in the enrollment ratio. Of course, we say that in Australia and New Zealand, all these countries are also coming up. But overall, for a number of reasons, students going abroad have also slightly has come down compared to the 1990s. There is a steady growth, but then compared to the 1990s, this number of students going abroad for study. This could be for different reasons. It could be for some political reasons, the large number of uncertainty, COVID kind of things. So there could be many factors which actually has brought down the enrollment ratio in these foreign universities. Now, if this trend continues, what will happen to the Indian universities? Because if India is also thinking of an internationalization of higher education, now what will happen to those Indian universities which actually seek to enroll the foreign students in India? Now, the government has to actually address these kind of issues also. And the other important thing is that, Indian government is saying, okay, let 100 top universities of the world actually come to India. Now, how do you actually decide the top university? It is actually based on the QS ranking. But we all know that, some of the top universities in the world, they are not after this QS ranking, because even otherwise they have their own attraction. The Oxford or Cambridge or many other. They are not really interested in these things. They might go for the QS ranking, but their QS ranking itself is not their objective. So there are many universities outside the QS ranking who are not really interested to come to India. So you are only supporting those institutions which all the time are worried about the QS ranking, and you are allowing them to come to India, but not really the top ones would actually come to India, if this is the situation here. Now, this is actually, one of the, paradoxes, and India has to actually address to this kind of issues here. And then, of course, many foreign universities and even the foreign agencies, including the European Union, if you talk to the European Union officials, they would actually tell you, how difficult it is to operate in India. You have a large number of regulatory frameworks which actually prevent from any meaningful exchange of programs, exchange of scholars, and also the conduct of programs. We have had this kind of problems. I don't know whether Saint Aloysius is also facing this kind of problem. So there are many restrictions on even on the money transfers. Pharaoh is actually becoming really a threat. So how do you actually cope up with this kind of situation? I know one university which actually took a lot of interest in the European this thing. it actually became the part of the lead university, because we all know that in the Erasmus project, the lead university has to be European university, because only the European university can only submit the accounts to the European Commission, and then the European auditing systems will be followed by those European systems. But one university actually became, one Indian university became the lead, not exactly the lead, but it is actually became the co-lead partners here. Now here what happens is that the money actually comes to the lead university, and the lead university then has to distribute the money to other university, partner universities. Now when money actually came to Indian university, now this university had terrible time in transferring this money to other universities in Europe. Because under the Indian university provisions here, under the FERA provisions here, you can get the money, but you cannot send the money outside. So it was a tough time. Even convincing the European Commission was also a very tough time, because under this, the Europeans are actually not aware of these kind of problems. And then the cultural kind of the restrictions also. So sometimes, so therefore, on one hand, we speak about international higher education, but on the other hand, there are so many restrictions, whether visible or invisible, restrictions, which actually prevent the meaningful conduct of the academic programs here. So therefore, we have to, and then there are also, restrictions on visa. One professor was supposed to come to our university from Britain, and of all the places, Britain. He had such a terrible time in getting the visa from Britain, and finally he couldn't come. So till the last month, he was trying for last 4 months to get the visa to visit India, and from Britain he was not able to get these things. I mean, it's not from Pakistan; he was coming from Britain. But in spite of that, it was actually a tough time, to get the visa here. So there are, so many, barriers to this, international higher education, and I'm sure that these kind of things would be overcome gradually, because we have, all kind of problems. We have the political problems, we have the philosophical objections to the internationalization, we have the cultural problems, of internationalization of, because many people would say, if you go for internationalization of higher education, what you end up is actually inculcating the Western values. But the government is very keen on actually exporting the Indian values abroad and not the other way around. So how do you actually manage these things is actually a question here. And therefore, sometime, in spite of all these, international higher education efforts, the fruits have not really reached the needy here. So that's because the bureaucracy also has a particular mindset, which is very difficult to change. But I'm sure that, with the initiatives of institutions like Mangalore University or St. Aloysius, these kind of barriers would gradually be overcome. So this kind of programs, Rishii kind of programs, and trying to reach out many would gradually change their mindset. And one day, internationalization would become truly internationalization, and our students would actually become the global citizens, and having the global skills and global knowledge. So I think I would stop here, and thanking the organizers once again for giving this opportunity, and wishing you all the best. I would put a full stop my talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for throwing some light on the changing dynamics of educational sector with globalization and how the NEP focuses on internationalization of higher education. We have with us our beloved principal, Reverend Father Praveen Martis SG, whose interest in collaborative activities like these have guided us and encouraged us to do more and be a part of these workshops. I would now request Father Principal to address the gathering.
Respected Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University and a chief guest on this National Dissemination event, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto, Rector of St. Aloysius Institutions, Dr. Alvin Desa, the Registrar, Dr. Ronald Nazareth, the Director of Domestic and International Collaboration Cell, and also the coordinator of Rishii program, my dear directors, the deans, and members of the faculty from various institutions from Mangalore and other parts of the country. As it is already told to us by Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin, with his experience, he has covered practically all the points beautifully and brought out the issues when it comes to internationalization of curriculum. We are in the time of being global village, the whole world is becoming a global village. And what we are talking is about globalization and also global competence and global professionals. How do you create them? And also how do you move from the Indian system to another system and also have that openness? Basically, you need to have an openness for internationalization. And for this project, they are given a wonderful name, Rishii. It also sounds beautifully in Indian context of the sages where the knowledge was created, and also that knowledge now gets into internationalization. And that is where the resources for the internationalization of higher education institutions in India, how do we all collaborate? We had a wonderful experience. 4 of us from this institution were in Spain for about 10 days. We had a lot of activities and also exchange programs and interactions with so many institutions. It was a wonderful experience for us, and we learned a lot from this wonderful exchange program that we had. Unfortunately, some of these programs are supposed to be held here, and we were given that opportunity to have it in July. We could not have it, and we were supposed to go to many other places in India. At least 4 different places in the west and the north and also the eastern part of India in those universities where this program is part of it. Now we have got a last program that is to be held in Delhi from 7th to 9th. We'll be again participating it. But then of course our dissemination events will go on. We learnt a lot. We had number of such programs here in the college. Practically all of our faculty and our neighboring institution faculty members also went through this, and also we felt it is something very important for us as well as for our students. As so many of our students are moving out, but then very few are coming in, as Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin said. But we have been receiving from last about 7-8 years, good many students coming from United States of America and from Europe and other places for these exchange programs. Our collaborations number has increased, and that way we are able to learn from each other. That is, I think, very important. Our students have got the best things, but then, as I said, many other institutions need to also involve in this process. That is very important for us to understand how the students could have this seamless transition from place to place. I think that is very important. I think that's the crux of the matter. And most of these issues that we face are true, as you suggested and said. And some of the Indian institutions like Manipal couldn't get into this because of these funding issues. And many other institutions have to finally withdraw, and they couldn't come to Spain for this program because there are lots and such issues are there. I think hopefully those issues will be overcome in the future so that we could have this seamless transition and be able to move and understand and also able to develop our curriculum. This is very, very important for us. How do you really develop a curriculum which is internationalized? We could have the members from other universities in the board of studies, in our academic council, in our governing body. We have been doing it, St. Aloysius College, and that has helped us. And many are moving out from here. At least about 500 students are moving out every year from St. Aloysius College itself for higher education. As a good trend, but at the same time, they need to come back. It's a brain drain in a way. The best students are moving out, but whether they could come back. In China does that. China allows them to move out, but then it says after 5 years or 8 years, they need to come back and develop the country. I think that's another factor. I think we need to also look into it when we do these kind of projects and encourage our students to see that also we need to develop ourselves. It's not that they move from our place and settle there. Rather, we need to exchange these kind of ideas and have that openness, and also moving from other places, kind of a mobilization has to be done. Hopefully, these kind of things will be done in the future, and we'll be able to move from place to place and truly become globalized citizens. I wish this program very best, and also thank Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin for coming over here and giving us this idea with his own experience in the past and telling us that we need to move from here and have that openness. Thank you, and God bless us.
Thank you, Father, for briefing about the need to strengthen and expand the internationalization culture. John Adams once quoted, "If your actions inspires others to do more, learn more, become more, you are a leader." We are fortunate to have such a leader amongst us, our rector, Reverend Father Melvin Joseph Pinto SG, whose kindness, interest, hospitality, and continuous support is worth appreciation. I request Father to provide his presidential remarks.
Dear Professor Dr. Jairaj Amin, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Mangalore University and our chief guest for this special program of Rishii project, the National Dissemination event. Dr. Father Praveen Matis, Dr. Alvin Desa, Dr. Ronald Nazareth, and all of you gathered here. It's a joy for me to be participating here at this inauguration of this dissemination event. And I would like to put forward a few random thoughts before you. First of all, this whole idea of global citizenship in the context of the internationalization of our syllabus, a curriculum that we are reflecting upon. We belong to, St. Aloysius College belongs to a group of Jesuit institutions internationally. Interestingly, the four professors along with the principal who had gone to Europe recently had gone to a Jesuit university. And with Duesto University is the one which is spearheading this entire Rishii program. And that was a joy for us because we immediately felt that affinity, because we have been speaking a lot about globalization of education. Now, we are living in a very strange world. A strange world where, wars are considered a game and games are considered a war. I often say in war there are no winners, only losers. As you see, you look around, I don't need to tell you all. Similarly, when it comes to games, it is supposed to be actually bringing us together, this world together. There is so much of internationalization of sports and games, of culture. There is an internationalization already. I'm glad that we have started, thinking more and more about this internationalization of education, because that's necessary to make the students and the next generation understand the interconnectedness. On a lighter note, recently we had this World Cup between India and Australia. I don't know how many of you noticed that it was those of you who watched the match. It was so strange. My heart kept sinking when I found the Australians were, they were batting well. They hit a 4, or even when he completed a century, one of the Australians, when he completed, Travis Head or somebody completed the century, the entire stadium was silent. None of them could appreciate talent, something that happened, no? Now, where does our internationalization go? If that is considered nationalism, not to applaud another nation which is doing well, is that education that we have had in our country? Is that our culture? Certainly not. I think there is much more to it. When it comes to internationalization, it should be that we learn to appreciate other nations just as other nations appreciate us. Our Indian culture is appreciated by so many nations today. And they respect us for whether the fields of medicine or yoga, whatever it is. There is such a lot of appreciation. Professor Jairaj Amin said it so beautifully. It's not so much that we go there and get educated, which we have been doing. It's also that they come here and get educated, fine. We also need to start saying that we have got something to contribute to the world. It's not just we receiving education, but we have also got something to contribute to the world. And that contribution is very rich. We go there not just to learn, but we learn from other cultures, and we also, change certain things in our culture which we don't think is right. And this is a process that has to begin. Everything in our culture need not be right. There are some things in our culture which other countries can show us that there is something rich over there. What is required is perhaps, in the context of our culture, we look at the other cultures and evaluate our own culture. This whole aspect of evaluating our culture is lost. The critical thinking is lost. When the critical thinking is lost, higher education will be only to learn something and merge with that, where our students go there, go abroad and get settled there. It's not that they have to go get learned and return to their own nation to say, okay, I've got something to contribute. Not the Western culture, but the values that are picked up. There are certain things like the core values, I would say human values, were universal. Not necessarily only Indian, but there are certain universal values like respect to life, of respect to diversity. Look at the world and see what beautiful things are there in this world. Then empathy. Something happens in some part of the world, you feel that empathy and open-mindedness. This is something that we need to develop. Even respect for life everywhere. Something happens, a war takes place in one part of the world, we are very much interested in it. In another part of the world, it doesn't really matter. Such terrible things happen with regard to terrorism in Africa. None of our students feel anything. But when something happens in Europe, it is blown out of proportion in our newspapers and media, and we all feel for them. Whereas when something happens in Africa, those lives don't matter. Is that what we are thinking and helping our students to grow and develop? And therefore, there is a lot of internationalization that has to take place, where we all understand that interconnectedness and the global citizenship. A global citizenship would be that a study of history, a study of geography, a study of human rights, a study of the contemporary challenges and threats that we feel. Something that is happening to the environment. Today, something that happens to the environment in one part of the world is not happening only there in that part of the world. It's also affecting us, the entire. So it's the planet. We belong to the planet. And if we at least start thinking that way, we will develop the critical thinking among the students to say, yes, this is the way forward. Today, we can't go on talking about nationalism in a very restricted sense. I suppose many, when they talk about nationalism, they refer to patriotism. Let's hope so. Patriotism is one, but when it comes to nationalism, to the extent that you can't even clap your hands when a Pakistani or an Australian or Englishman scores a century. Now this is odd, weird, not something which culture should teach us. And so therefore, we require to open up. We need to develop this whole idea of freedom of expression, allowing the students to think globally and come out with certain freedom of expression and deep down accept certain differences that are there in others and the differences of opinion as well. And when they do that in a free world where they can think together, then the higher education will definitely develop and reach another level altogether. With that, definitely there'll be an adopting behavior also, behavioral change among people, especially those who consider themselves educated. Let this movement of internationalization of syllabus go on, the internationalization of curriculum and content, let it go on, but at a deeper level where critical thinking has got a very important place. May God bless us all. Thank you.
I would like to call upon Dr. Runal Nazareth, Coordinator Rishii Project, whose unwavering support, vision and commitment has made this collaboration a grand success, to propose the vote of thanks.
Honorable dignitaries on and off the days, I stand before you with the immense gratitude and sense of accomplishment as we gather today to mark the culmination of the national dissemination event of this Rishii program at St. Aloysius College. It has been a remarkable journey over the past 4 years, filled with learning, filled with growth, filled with a collaboration. On behalf of entire St. Aloysius community, I extend heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Professor Jairaj Amin, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mangalore University. I had opportunity to meet him a couple of times. Whenever we met him, the warmth in which he welcomes us, and the way in which he gives priority to St. Aloysius College, and the way in which he interacts with us with this vision, it is truly commendable. And that all shows that the ideas to have for the betterment of educational community at large. Thank you, sir. Your presence has added immense value to this occasion. I request for the rector to present a memento on behalf of St. Aloysius College. We have with us for the rector, a visionary leader, Father Malvin Pinto, the head of the Aloysian institution. He has been instrumental in leading our institution through collaboration, emphasizing the global perspective of learning. Your encouragement has been a driving force, Father. We are truly grateful for your presence today. Thank you. We have with us our principal leading us from the front. Rishii program is actually initiated by him when he visited the Deusto University, Bilbao, Spain, many years back, where he signed a MOU, and that resulted with this beautiful project. Thank you, Father, for your unwavering support on organizing this significant event. We have with us our registrar, backbone of Rishii program, and your role in conceptualizing and executing this initiative has been very crucial. We appreciate your efforts. Thank you, sir. A heartfelt thanks to Dr. Dennis Fernandez, who is a core member of this particular team, whose guidance has been instrumental in the progress of this Rishii program. He will present today the strategic plan of our college for internationalization. Thank you, sir. I would like to express our gratitude to the team of experts who are with us today, ready to share their insights. Additionally, a special thanks to the team responsible for organizing today's event. Your meticulous planning and dedication have made this possible. We are very happy to have a representative from our collaborating institutions, St. Anne's College of Education, St. Agnes College, Milagris College, Mangalore, PA College, St. Joseph's Engineering College, and Milagris College, Kalyanpur. Your presence and commitment represent the spirit of growing together and growing stronger as one community. We look forward for numerous collaborative activities in the future. Thank you for being a part of this inaugural program. A sincere thanks to all the participants of our college. You are the pillar of support for this Rishii program. Your dedication and involvement has been invaluable, and we are grateful for you for your active participation. Thank you. Let us all celebrate the achievement of the Rishii program, and we look forward a future filled with continued growth and success. Thank you one and all for being a part of this incredible journey. Thank you.